Hey everyone, welcome back to Ben's Almanac. I'm Mac, and this is the devlog series where we are showing how the show will get built before it goes live. This is a hobby show, and I'm planning on putting all of the information from this repo like online, so anyone can fork it and make it themselves later. But I want to get it into a stable, complete place before we do that. And since I'm bouncing between a couple projects, it's really nice to have a touch point each week where I got be on a meeting and present what I've done the last week to everyone. In this case, we've been off for a couple weeks for the holidays, and happy New Year, and I hope everybody had a wonderful December holiday season. But during that time, I've had a good couple chunks of working sessions to uh, make forward progress. And once some of the finicky design stuff was out of the way from the earlier sections, it ended up being fairly fast to start really coming together. I'm very close to a place where we'll see a full sort of version 1 soon. Um, but that's probably at least 2 weeks away, maybe three, and it will take some time to make sure everything's like polished and good and streamlined. But we can do that after we go live as well. Once we have like a working, MVP to base things off of. Now, this week, I was struggling to figure out exactly what I wanted to show everyone because we've done a bunch of stuff, but what do I actually point out? What's important? So I thought for this week we would see the automation of the presentation get going, and I'll walk you through exactly what's going on as it's happening. So in order to prove that it is occurring right now, let me literally type it in for you guys. So, hey, we're doing a demo friend on the creation of the presentation. Could you configure the scripts to have them run a new test case, a new test episode? Uh, it can be from the existing folder for the B episode. Just want to show it all functioning. There we go. So that's written before you guys enter, and this will go off and just create it for us. Now, what do I want to show you for how this is working? Well, since we last spoke, these are the main things getting used to actually present this. These are the demos I've already spoken about how I really like producing them week to week, or phase to phase, so I can be absolutely sure I know what's going on, and anyone else can walk through it to see how this got built. Um, and I've already talked about Jupyter Notebook some, so I'll skip rehashing any of that, but let me explain the process because there are other people and companies making automated presentations. You can do that actually a couple different ways from PowerPoint itself and then going into Copilot or using Claude or ChatGPT's user interface. The issue I had with those, well, first off, I started building this before most of those became live, so first mover advantage, of course. But the issue I had with those, even when I'm using them, is the planning and execution of them. I feel is trying to do too much at once because, at least for me, there are some really specific things I want to see out of a deck, and I want to actually check it and know what's going on before each phase of that process. So, like if I'm building a presentation, it usually starts from just a blank piece of paper that I draw out what I want the flow of slides to be like. And so, in order to do that, I make these two YAML files, this deck plan YAML and the deck content YAML. And the way that is working is if we go up to uh, data test case, this is probably still running, but might have given us our first one. But if we go up to here, you can see how there is this little information file. This is the episode, this is the description of that episode, and then it goes into slides. And so what is happening is we pass to an API. API is just the way to call a model that somebody else's actually owns and hosting. We send it some information. they process it, they send it back to us. That's like an API call that's very simplest. We send that information, we say, hey, here are the research and information on what we have for some content. And this is an example of the YAML. And what we want you to do is put those things together so we have an actual episode in this outline for 6 to 8 episodes, whatever makes sense. I also include some style guides. I also include a little bit of, hey, like this is how the title should flow. There should be sentences, and the read through of those sentences should form a paragraph. But what it does is it goes through and it generates this, the title, the layout, the rationale. And it does that for each and every slide in the order that the slides should get created. Now, the title is pretty simple. This is just like what will be at the top. The type here is from the layouts. If you remember when we were making masters, we can name those. This is just the name of what the layout will be, so we know what to call. And then the rationale is just to keep it honest, make sure it's not just making things up. Opening slide establishes the marketable nature of communication. It's a little overly flowery for rational, whatever. We'll tweak it and refine it later. Now, once we have this, we can come over to the deck and we get this deck content filled. Now, the deck content filled is actually a two-step process. What we do is first we come to the deck plan, and then we come to some of our earlier work where we made like a little lexicon of what each of the layouts is supposed to be doing. And then we smash them together until basically everything in this plan, but this value information is filled in. So we say, look at the slide 1. We know it's slide number 1 from the ordering. We look at the layout. We know it's the title slide. And this is like scripted. We don't ask the AI to do this. We just put this together this information from a script because it's deterministic. We want exactly this layout every time from a given lexicon of information. And so with that, we do everything except this here, this value information. This is what ends up getting written, except for the titles because those titles are already there. Once we have that, they'll be blank on each and every point except for the titles. And then we take this information and we pass it to a second API. And we say, hey, given all this information and given this like lexicon again of what each of these things should be, please fill in and write out what should be going in the values, right? And so that's what it does. It goes through and actually fills in all of them, this information for each of these slides, and it creates this YAML. And now the reason we're doing it in this two-phase process is at each point I can go in and just check the YAML that got written. I can say, oh, okay, like this is what the slide flow is going to be, and this is why it should be like that. And then these are what will get filled in for the subtitles. And so right now it's all just in this YAML almost blueprint format. We haven't actually put anything together from the deck itself, but it starts at, see, deck content, then the deck filled. It's a two-step process for creating the blueprint for the deck. But now we have the research, we have the very high level plan, and then we have the filled in content. And then that gets us to the output itself. Now I can't, or at least I don't know how to open this up from PowerPoint, but we can come here. We can come to output and the demo. This is just it being silly opening it up here. Ah, you're not seeing this. Okay. Let me see. Oh, I'm gonna have to like re-record everything, aren't I? Oh, there we go. I was just being silly. Well, okay, I'm not re-recording that. That's small enough. Now you can see this is very light by this point, but this is just start to finish. I just asked the Claude CLI, like Claude Code command line, to generate this for us, and it just came together. Simple 6 slides. Obviously needs some work for the presentation itself, but everything gets created. The only thing that you'll see is pretty light here is footnotes. It does do it the one time. There's instructions in there of if it's in the research to make sure it is cited if they're making a particular thing. Besides that, it's very light. I mean, I can already see from this that I need to work on this style guide for what's getting created. I don't like how short these sentences are, right? I think these should usually be full sentences that are like running into 2 lines here, something like that. And oh, I actually had a problem before where these new lines weren't getting created properly, but I could see that has changed. But obviously, some of the formatting, now that I'm seeing it coming together, should be adjusted. But yeah, everything's getting created from a single run. You just type in your prompt, you drop in all of the research, and then it runs. But you can specifically stop it at each individual point. Now you'll notice, and this is what will get created next week, is I also have this here. This is for any place, these like long paragraphs you're seeing. This is for any place where we're going to be doing picture content, because since this is like a test AI channel, right? I'm just like, Joe Schmo who likes playing around with all of the AI toys and wants to see how far you can push them. I'm planning on having each of these for any place there's going to be a picture. It generate the picture. We'll do another API call, simple wrapper, have it send back a picture from us. But in order to generate that picture, we need to give it a prompt. And while we're inputting this information for all of the text files that we're going to be using, for all the text in a particular PowerPoint section, we also have it generate a detailed paragraph inside of a certain word range, because they can't get too long with these picture files, in order to later send that off and then get a picture in return. Then we'll basically swap it, and that'll be next week. I also want to see if I can't do that for like a simple video or something. I thought, if we're making AI generated stuff, let's just go all the way, right? Like, each episode can be an AI generated presentation kicked off with an AI generated video embedded into the presentation with an AI generated voiceover doing the script reading into the AI generated pictures as well. So we're coding it just to see how far we can push it and to see where it fails, and then to see what looks weak. And then since we're running it each week, we can see where it does better and where it does worse. But yeah, that is a start to finish, quick and simple run to generate a simplified, very lightweight presentation. Now, for next week, I want to make sure the pictures are actually getting embedded into this. So that'll be the thing I create, so we can have that in the finished product each time that we run it from start to finish. And I will definitely be doing some polish work on making it a little bit nicer what we actually see when it gets run. I think that's basically half template and then half just better prompting on a style guide. But yeah, that's what I have for everybody this week. Thank you so much for joining us and watching, and I hope you have an absolutely wonderful first week of the new year. May your New Year's resolutions actually happen. So I know I struggle with that every year, but it's always fun to start again and try anew. Anyway, I'll catch you all later. Have a good week. Bye. Oh, where's the mouse?